Bust it.
They present the popular radio program Political Platform on the Ray Power FM network. Ray Power FM Political Platform, now on television. Keep track of the country's polity and be part of the process as they discuss and put political developments in the country into perspective. It's Ray Power Political Platform.
Hello, welcome to Political Platform on Ray Power FM and also on AIT Abuja and AIT International. The polity is agog with a series of heavy stories, those ones that you consider juicy. Federal government announcing yesterday after the Federal Executive Council meeting that it will stop medical doctors from engaging in private practice. Those medical doctors in his employ who also have time for practices in private organizations. They said henceforth they will not tolerate it. Besides that, the government says it's going to begin to implement the laws on no work, no pay rule. If you embark on strike for the period you're on strike, you don't expect any salary and even pension, so says the federal government. And there was panic in the southeast part of Nigeria. Yesterday, parents hurriedly withdrew their children and walked from the various primary and secondary schools after rumors that a medical outreach the Nigerian Army is carrying out is intended to inject the students with some vaccine that is considered poisonous. The Army came out to deny that it was the intention, but just as a way of deepening their corporate social responsibility. But it was not enough, as all the schools, almost all of them, were closed down yesterday. And the summit in Kaduna, the Northern Nigeria Summit on Restructuring, is continuing today. And of course, if we have time, we shall also be telling you about the court order that gave the final forfeiture of 56 houses linked to the Zan Alice Madeke, but now with the federal government. My name is Amechi Anakwe. Our colleague who's in Delta State presently is around. Ehedu Eneagu is joining us this morning. Hello and welcome.
Thank you very much, Amici. Good morning, listener. You talked about the issue of federal government stopping doctors in high employ from having their own establishment and possibly engaging in private practice. That reminds us of that theory of Mama Nkechi and Mame Yabo, that for you to ask Nkechi not to go and eat in Mame Yabo's spot. From Mame Yabo's spot, you must first of all ensure that there is enough food. If there is no food, automatically, when hunger strikes, the Nkechi naturally will want to seek solution in Mame Yabo's spot. And so if you have doctors in the federal government employ, you're not able to provide all the necessary facilities as well as pay them properly. Of course, that theory will apply. And I don't know what mechanism the federal government will put in place to monitor that doctors don't own establishments, because when they do, they can own it in proxy. There's no law that says that one other person cannot invest. You can say this hospital belongs to this big man. But
the law says if you're employed with the federal government, you cannot own any other business except a farm business.
There is no law that will say that you are the owner. All you need to do is to get somebody else to own it. It could even be your
by proxy.
It could even be your wife. That you, as a medical doctor in the employ of the federal government, that does not also stop your wife from being the owner. That does not stop your brother. That does not stop your friend. But what matters at the end of the day, who is the person running it? When he is said to be off duty, he goes there in the name of a consultant or provide one other service or the other. Government need to stop chasing shadows. Do the right thing. If you provide the real facilities for a lecturer, for instance, in your institution, that lecturer will not depend on selling of handouts, nor will he depend on extra moral classes for him to be able to make ends meet. If you properly engage him and he's well paid, he will not even have enough time to engage in some of those services. So we should stop chasing shadows and do what is right. I believe that when we do them, automatically most of these other things will fall in place rather than wasting so much energy. Before you know it, now they will set up a committee and they will call it committee monitoring doctors who own hospitals. And that committee will spend money not being able to do anything, because most of the people who may even be in that committee may also be culpable.
Well, we shall be getting to that. We'll have to share your mails now. Let's see some of the emails you have sent to our platform. Immediately after that, we shall be going straight to Kaduna to speak with Adebayo Bodre on the summit going on there.
Hello and welcome to the mail segment. I am Etenikan Akepu.
I'm Osaitin Yari. Welcome.
And we begin with issues emanating from the Army Free Medical Service. Nemeka Mba from Abuja has written in and he says, the unfortunate news broke yesterday in the southeastern part of the country that the Army Free Medical Social Responsibility outreach was a ploy to infect school children with ailments, particularly monkeypox. Who did this to Ndigbo? The otherwise industrious and hardworking busy Igbo people are now preoccupied with peddling rumors and sentiments. And the sad thing is that no matter how ridiculous and unbelievable the rumors are, these people have become so gullible that they swallow them hook, line, and sinker and start running helter-skelter in unnecessary panic. Please permit me to use your worldwide informative program, The Political Platform, to appeal to the general public, particularly Igbo people, to know where to draw the line between desperate politics, propaganda, and reality. I make this passionate appeal because this ugly political weapon is gradually pushing the unsuspecting public to near medical paranoia. May God help us.
More reactions. Collins Eze in Abuja says, Dear crew, seeing what happened in the southeast between agitators and the military in recent time, there should be caution in using the military for any form of civil activities within this area. Please let whatever form of immunization this is be suspended until proper sensitization is carried out, where people will be convinced that it is for their own good. This is a very big lesson to the ruling class, that it is very easy to lose people's confidence when the right things are not done. God bless Nigeria.
And Dr. Jurongbe Olabode in Ogun State says, I received with great sadness the news that doctors who work with the government are not meant to operate private hospitals. I believe that this is the highest deception from our leaders. What do you want doctors who work with Osun State, where they receive half salary, to do? The government should stop this deception and crocodile dance. I would have been happy if the decision was that no government official should go for medical tourism, from the president to the councillors in every ward. Nigeria is the only nation that breeds doctors for other nations to reap from. God help my country, Nigeria.
That's it on the mail segment today. Continue writing us on politicalplatform@yahoo.com.
Bust it!
They present the popular radio program Political Platform on the Ray Power FM network. Ray Power FM Political Platform, now on television. Keep track of the country's polity and be part of the process as they discuss and put political developments in the country into perspective. It's Ray Power Political Platform.
Thank you so much for the mails. We should be heading straight to Kaduna. Of course, Arewa House is the venue of a summit organized by the Arewa Research and Development Project. And the intention is to articulate the position of the North on the current agitations and clamor for restructuring of Nigeria. We spoke with Adebayo Bodri, who's covering the event yesterday. And some of the mails we have read, you can begin to see, of course, things and statements and positions coming out of that restructuring. Some speakers yesterday said, yes, the North is not afraid of restructuring, as so many Nigerians, especially those from the South, believe that the North is even at the lead of the agitation for restructuring. But some others, they say it is a form of blackmail that some parts of Nigeria is planning to use to intimidate the North, and that it will not be allowed. Of course, Ango Abdullahi even made statements suggesting that Nigeria should make a recourse to the 1914 era. That was before the amalgamation of the country, saying indeed that if, of course, that is not an option, then indeed we should consider the 1960 constitution, which southwest part of Nigeria, that's the Yoruba nation, says is the constitution that should be the ground norm.
Amechi, taking this argument from what happened in the southeast and part of the south yesterday with respect to the alleged infection of or outbreak of monkeypox, you will indeed understand that suspicion is the bane of our living together and our unity. To a very large extent, even if that particular fake news had also emanated from the southwest or even in the north, the same level of response ordinarily you will also see will take place. It tells you how fragile we have gone in terms of trusting each other. And this is the aspect I expect government and indeed the different leaders of these different geopolitical zones to take very, very seriously.
Edu, we shall be returning to that. Let's quickly link up with Adebayo Bodurin in Kaduna State. Hello and welcome to Political Platform.
Yeah, thank you, Amici.
So what was it like yesterday, deliberations? We have seen reports of the statements made by various speakers. Can you lead us into what happened?
Well, I think it was a well-attended conference. People from the academic community, people, traditional, political, religious, and business leaders from the north actually converged on Kaduna. And I can tell you that the turnout was very, very impressive. The debates were robust. The contributions were very enlightening and instructive of what may ultimately be the position of the north on the issue of restructuring. And one clear message that was that emerged yesterday was that contrary to impressions in certain quarters, the north was not afraid of restructuring. At least no fewer than 12 speakers made that point clear in their contributions yesterday. And the issue was the issue of fiscal federalism, issue of almost all issues, devolution of power, and all the rest were actually raised. And what is taking place in Kaduna right now is like the elite seem to have seized the moment to generate ideas that will probably be passed on to the committee headed by the governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwa, set up by the committee of political and religious leaders in the north. And I'm sure at the end of the day, that committee also is also planning a town hall meeting in all the states of in the north. And I think after that, maybe they will be from the input from this ongoing conference and the one that will probably come from the town hall meeting and all the rest. It will now be possible for the north to take a stance on the issue of restructuring. And I think it appears to me that what is taking place is like an all-inclusive thing, because virtually almost everybody is being given a chance to air their views. People, those who are classified as minorities are there, Christians are there, Muslims are there, and the conference is continuing today.
You said most of the speakers yesterday said the North is not afraid of restructuring, so they are pro-restructuring. So what form of restructuring are they now canvassing if they say we want restructuring? Is it devolution of powers? Ango Abdullahi made mention of the 1960 Constitution.
That is what is currently being discussed. The form of restructuring that will be pushed by the North, I can't say it categorically now, until perhaps maybe towards evening today, when the resolutions, it's not a communique. The convener, Dr. Usman Bugaje, made it clear yesterday that it's not a conference where communiques are being issued, but there are going to be resolutions that will be passed on to another committee raised by the political and traditional rulers in the North, and they are then, which will also be considered alongside with the ideas that will be generated at the town hall meetings that will hold very soon. And then it's after that I think one can conveniently say that the North, this is the position of the North. For now, it is difficult for me to say that they have taken a stance, but they are generating ideas, and it's an all-inclusive process that is currently going on.
Those that spoke against restructuring, what reasons did they adduce for taking that position?
I can tell you from the statement made yesterday, nobody spoke against restructuring. It's only the form that it will take, and that nobody should be stampeded in such a way that if you have taken a stance, you must not force it on any section of the country. And Dr. Bugaje, in his speech yesterday, made that one clear, that is of the very, very strong view that through negotiation, compromise, and consensus will eventually be reached at the end of the day.
Thank you so much, Adebayo Bodurin, for your input. I will hope to, of course, have you here when the final resolutions will be out by then.
Thank you, Amici.
Ehedu, very interesting. Is now much more of a bandwagon. Everybody keen into the fact that they need to restructure Nigeria. The issue now is how should it take place, and what form should it be?
Personally, I believe that anybody who wishes this country well and who want to live a better country for our children and our children's children will indeed need to agree for us to come to a discussion table where everybody will need to take a look at the issues. Right, I agree with Bugaje that it's going to be a give and take discussion. You don't come to that kind of table and expect that you must take away everything that you are asking for. Otherwise, that becomes selfish. In the interest of the general Nigeria society, we need to be able to agree to say, okay, yes, you do this. If I were the one, for instance, those in the South can say, okay, if we produce the oil, what do we do to ensure that agriculture is also developed in the North? And then by the time we're able to strike, we can say, okay, let us give a 5-year, 10-year term to develop A, B, C, D. So that certain other things are running concurrently with whatever resources you have in the southern part of the country. When we do that, and we do it sincerely, we would have ended up at the end of the day ensuring that everybody becomes much more productive than we are at the moment. Because whether we like it at the moment, without the federation account, majority of the states cannot survive. And if majority of the states cannot survive, it means that
despite the huge potential.
Yes, despite the huge potential. I keep giving an example with a state like Kogi State. Each time I drive past Lokoja, I see money on the right, I see money on the left. The question is, the state government does seem not to be seeing it to be able to pick it. I gave an example one time here of the Table Mountain in Cape Town in South Africa, where you have to connect an electric motor that takes you from the down part of the hill up to the top of the hill. When you get to the Table Mountain, as the top of the mountain, there's nothing fantastic about it, but you are able to see the other part of the city.
And here
then,
in Kogi,
and then they're able to develop to make sure that even when you get it, there's some form of little excitement. So everybody now look forward to visiting Table Mountain or the Signal Hill.
What will stop tourists from across the world to come to Lokoja to see the confluence? Where River Niger, the biggest rivers in Africa, meeting at some point. It is a beauty to behold. It's left for the state to indeed harness.
Even the Confluence Hotel that was developed by the administration of Audu when he first came, the late Audu, when he first came, was more or less abandoned. If you go there now, it wasn't developed to such a level where you can easily want to say, let me go there and relax. Meanwhile, if you have been able to develop it and make sure that people can even from there travel to the real point where the River Niger and the River Benue meet, and you advertise it,
and it's not far off from that point.
It's not far off from that point.
A boat ride.
Yes, a number of persons would like to go there. They will want to see. And then they are wanting to see, you make money and then use it to further develop the state. Okay. So there are so many things that ordinarily should be giving us money, but we are not looking in that direction. Not only
because every month you come to Abuja to collect money.
Not only states in the north. I can tell you now, in our own effort to look at data beyond oil, for instance, we've been able to discover what agriculture can do. A number of the states also in the south need to also look beyond those things that is making them feel very, very big. So that at the end of the day, you have multiple sources. When you have multiple sources, because there is dearth of infrastructure in most of the states of the federation that you need to tackle. And if you have to tackle them, you need money to do that. So you need to, as much as possible, explore many sources with a view to addressing these many needs of your people and indeed bringing about development. It's just like a family
unit. If you rely on salary alone, then you bear the brunt. But let's quickly move to other issues now. The Nigerian government, after the Federal Executive Council meeting yesterday, said that they will henceforth stop the practice of doctors in its employ who, of course, cultivate the habit of putting in some shift in other private hospitals. We call it a PP or private practice. The government also said it would indeed begin to implement the no work, no pay. If you go on strike, then you won't be having any salary or even pension. The government said the numerous strikes, the series of strikes we have seen in the past few weeks is targeted at pulling down the administration of Muhammad Buhari, and to that extent, they will not be allowing it. So let's link up with a medical doctor, someone who has been associated with, of course, the Nigerian Medical Association. That's the professional body, of course, regulating, of course, the medical practice in Nigeria. So many questions did come up as to the potency of that decision taken by the federal government, how they will indeed implement it, is one issue. But we are making efforts to get our man on the line now to, of course, provide us some perspectives on this issue.
Sometimes I get disturbed when I see those in authority who should ordinarily be telling us the truth, getting a little funny with their pronouncement and decisions. Just about 3 or 4 days ago, former General Malu died in, I think, in Egyptian hospital. Amici, I don't want to believe that he died there because dying in Egypt will make it easier for him to go to heaven, but possibly because he feels that he would have secured much better medical attention. As we speak, from stories from the grapevine, it does appear that the education minister or somewhere one of the cabinet ministers is outside the country attending to his health needs. Not long ago, the Minister of Women Affairs, Aisha Al-Hassan, was also outside the country. Let me not bore anybody with the fact that the Mr. President spent over 100 days outside the shores of this country attending to his own medical needs. Let us first of all deal with medical tourism, which was one of the key points in the course of the APC campaign in 2014-2015. If we're able to deal with these issues, that will now begin to bring out, and just about 3 or 4 days ago, the wife of the president also queried the state of the Aso Rock facility, health facility, the Aso Villa Clinic. So if that clinic that is supposed to be closest to the first family is not in the best of shape, and we have not thought about what we need to do to put it in the best of shape, with a view to getting the doctors to even see reasons why they will have to stay back. And we are thinking of those who, because they want to apply the Mama Nkechi and the Mama Yabo principle, and we think that that's what with the direction we're going to, I can tell you that that will even fail from the beginning, because that means you are chasing shadow. If the Federal Executive Council had reasoned that yesterday and said, look, we have taken decision to ensure that we improve research, we provide facilities, and after you have done that, and those things are functional, and then the different monies you are supposed to also pay to these medical health personnel, that we are paying it, then the whole Nigerians will join you to begin to fight the greed, as it were, of any medical personnel who may want to leave the very comfort zone of those federal government medical facilities and then navigate towards these other private practice because they want to truncate whatever decisions you have taken and the effort you have put in.
What I'm getting, the information I'm getting, we are still making efforts to reach this medical doctor for his perspective. But what we have gotten so far is that there's a council, Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, which has the responsibility of prescribing standards and even giving out punitive sanctions and measures to erring medical doctors. And the issue of having double employment, we're told, is against one of their rules. So there's a body responsible for that. But unfortunately, as we speak, the board of the Nigeria Medical and Dental Council was dissolved alongside the many other federal boards and parastatals when, of course, the president announced their dissolution some years ago. And as we speak, that board is yet to be constituted. So,
Amechi, can I ask a question? Lawyers who are in the Ministry of Justice, do some of them also have their own chambers? Let us begin to look at so many other establishments. Pharmacists who run in the hospitals, do they also have chemist shops or pharmacy shops? There are certain things you need to do to be able to, first of all, prevent these issues. Look at what happened in private schools or private establishments. The individuals are so engaged. For instance, if you are working in a bank, the bank will so engage you from morning till evening that by the time you leave the banking hall, you are only thinking of sleep and how to even come back the next day to work. You can't be thinking of jumping from that bank to go and sit down in another banking hall. When we employ people, first of all, without declaring vacancies, we employ them because the money you are going to use to pay them is not because they have been able to produce that money. When we do some of these things, we begin to offer free services when we have not been able to produce or earn the money that will enable us give free services. The moment you do that, you are only just playing to the gallery. Look at also our educational institutions. When we wake up and say free education, and yet you have not been able to generate enough income to even provide for good libraries.
The question is, if the government wants to indeed stop the practice of medical doctors in his employ running private practices, what stops it from constituting the Medical and Dental Council, which has the responsibility to discipline doctors who carry out these offense. Now, you ask one question, who will now do it? Are they going to set up a committee within an interministerial committee to implement it, a committee to do a work, a statutory body that was established to do, but which has not been empowered to do so? That should have been the concern of the Federal Executive Council. They should have told the president right there at the council chambers that he needed to indeed constitute that council. There are medical doctors in that Federal Executive Council. The Minister of Labor is one of them, and employment, he's a medical doctor, and he should know that the constitution of that council is paramount in not just dealing with such infractions in terms of multiple employment, but in many other cases as we speak. Not just the Medical and Dental Council, so many of them professional bodies that are not empowered by inaction of this government, and the whole country is paying for it. The question is, how did the president approve such contract? Was it in his sick bed, or did he usurp the powers of the acting president? Of course, Ibe Kachuku had told us in his own memo that was leaked that the GMD of NNPC made attempts to indeed get the approval of the acting president, but each time he did that, he always referred him back to him, but he never came back. So more revelations, and as they come, we'll share them with you. Thank you so much for being part of this program. Remember to send us your mails. We'll appreciate them, even when we don't read them here. And on behalf of my colleague Hedu Anegu, my name is Amechi Anako. Have a wonderful day.
Bust it!